Good morning. As a call to worship, I'd like to offer these words from Mary Jean Irian's brilliant definition of faith in her book, Yes, World. Sometimes I wondered if I had any faith. I sat down and thought about it, and when I had had enough of that, I got up and went on my way. And that, the getting up and going, was faith. As a community of faith for which that word itself has a myriad of definitions, I'm sure, we come together to light a chalice in solidarity and unified in our intention to bring more light into the world rather than darkness, more love rather than fear, as individuals and as a community. May this flame be a statement and symbol of our faith. May it light our way.
Good morning, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica. My name is Karen Shue Patterson, and I'm your worship associate today. I am one of many volunteers in the church who work to bring Sunday service together, along with the ushers and greeters, the folks providing coffee and treats after service, our communications team, who make sure that timely announcements and the order of service comes to you, and the tech team here and behind the scenes, who make it possible to live stream this service. And thank you to our weekend sexton, Tom Ahern, who ensures that our doors are open and that our home is tidy. We're joined today by our wonderful Director of Multi-Generational Religious Education, Jessica Tenhave Place, and by our fantastic musicians, Ryan Humphrey and Olivia Salazar. Thank you all, and thanks to you for being here in the sanctuary and with us in our online sanctuary. We invite children and families to start service with us and stay through our time for all ages, followed by religious exploration in the cottage across the courtyard. Today, I am so delighted to welcome our good friend, Michael Esselin, as our guest speaker. Michael serves as the chaplain for the Simsman UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology. Two-time TEDx speaker, Michael speaks extensively to healthcare professionals, patient populations, and faith communities across the country. Long serving as adjunct faculty at the Wiesenthal Center and Museum of Tolerance, he's also worked as an activist and educator addressing anti-LGBTQ bias in the larger community for well over 30 years. In 2019, Michael was inducted into the UCLA Semel Institute Eudaimonia, did I pronounce that? Society, in recognition of having lived a meaning-driven life. He has 4 volumes of CDs available for purchase, and you can also reach him through his website, www.michaelusselin.com. And, fun fact, today marks his 24th time here in our UUSM pulpit. And more about us. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica is a contemporary congregation with roots deep in the centuries-old tradition of Unitarian Universalism. Centered in love, we are an open and affirming congregation, celebrating our queer and trans members and friends working for justice for Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, and towards full inclusion for those living with disabilities, as well as protecting our precious planet home and all of its inhabitants. We draw upon sacred, secular, and scientific sources in our liberal tradition, and we welcome spiritual beliefs from all the world's religions and from humanist, atheist, and agnostic wisdom as well. Whatever your beliefs or faith tradition, we believe there is something here for you. And if we don't have it, let us help you create it. If this is your first time here, or you're still new to our congregation, we offer a special welcome to you and hope that you'll take the time to meet with folks at our visitors table after the service and sign up for our weekly newsletter to learn more about ways to get involved with our beloved community. We invite you to consider becoming a member of our congregation to help us further the transformative work we do in our world. May you find comfort, community, and inspiration here. As we gather in this sanctuary and in our virtual spaces, we recognize that our homes and the homes of most of our members and friends are in the ancestral lands of Indigenous people. This is the traditional home of the Keys Nation, the 14 bands of the Chumash tribes, and others. We remember the painful histories of these lands and continue our commitments to justice and sovereignty for Indigenous peoples. And now, please rise and body our spirit for our opening hymn, number 1012 in the Teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened. Afterward, we will remain standing to recite our covenant in English and Spanish, followed by our hymn of praise.
When I
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento, y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en la libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Así es como convenimos unos a otros.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Tenhave Place, and I'm the Director of Multi-Generational Religious Education here. And hi, Emerson. So that means I'm gifted to get to spend time with a lot of our younger friends that we have here in our community. And I'd like to invite them, along with anyone else who might have donations for the West Side Food Bank, to come bring them up front. Now, we partner with the West Side Food Bank in their mission to help our neighbors who are dealing with food insecurity. What are you guys bringing today? You got some beans? Oh, tomato soup, yeah, and garbanzo beans. These are great examples of things we can bring. Ooh, I see some macaroni and cheese and peanut butter. Candy, the luxuries are also important, right? Those people going through hard times deserve the same joys that the rest of us are privileged to experience. So thank you for bringing those treats as well. And so as everyone leaves their offerings up front there, I'll meet our younger friends on the steps for our time for all ages. Yeah, you want to come sit next to me? I feel so lucky to get to sit next to you, Eloise. Thank you.
I think you got a Theo.
Yeah, there's Theo. It's all right. We'll all be friends together here. Oh, we have a firefighter. Hi. Okay, so I have something here with me, too. What do we see here? A paper airplane, right. And so I have a story today. So firefighters fight fire. We know what we call someone who flies an airplane? Pilot, that's right. And so we have a story today about a pilot that some of you might know because of something else that he did. Is anyone familiar? Let me try to get this this very French name out. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. That sounded French at the end there. Can anyone shout out a children's book that he was famous for writing? Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince, yes. And but another job that he had other than being a writer was being a pilot, which inspired him in his writing. And so once a long time ago, about 80 years ago, he was flying from France to Africa, going back and forth to bring the mail. That was his job. And on one of his flights, he got lost. Because back then, they didn't have all the kind of computers and things, right, that we have today that help pilots tell where they're going. So he's out there in the dark, and he got lost, and he can't figure out where he is. And he's worried, I'm going to run out of fuel. What am I going to do? So he's trying to get on his radio to get directions from people. He can't reach anyone. He's getting really scared. He doesn't know what to do. But then, finally, a voice comes in from way back in France where he came from. And they said, the plane that you're flying has bigger fuel reserve tanks than you're used to. So you have more fuel than you think. You're not going to run out. And it helps give them directions to get where he was going. And he thought, oh, I'm not so worried anymore because now I know I have the fuel I need to get to my destination. And so I think that can remind me of things that we do in our lives, right? Where sometimes you feel really exhausted, or just like you don't know what the right choice is to make. And by ourselves, we feel like we're just running out of fuel, running out of energy. But that's when we look to the community around us. And I see all the beautiful faces around me of people that help lift each other up and offer encouragement and just remind us, hey, you have a little bit more fuel than you think you have. And with help from family and friends and faith and all of the things that are important in our lives, you can make it. And so we're going to talk more about offering that encouragement to each other in RE. But I think that's a great example that when we're think about being up in the sky and look at our little planet down there, we can think that we're all part of an interdependent web holding each other together and helping each other out. So why don't we sing our song out and we'll go to the cottage for our RE class.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you as you go on your way. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you as you go on your way.
Okay, I do have a few announcements. The first announcement is if you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phone for the comfort of all. And then we noticed this morning that the QR code for the digital order service is a little bit off, and so it may take you to a different day. I know some of us want to go back in time to June. We're working on updating the QR code, and we do have hard copy orders of service if needed. I want to give a shout out to Youth RE. Youth RE for grades 6 to 12 will kick off their bi-monthly gatherings next Sunday, January 12th at noon. They'll be in room 4 upstairs in Forbes Hall for lunch, followed by a scavenger hunt with prizes for the winners. You will also be able to pick up your folder for Building Bridges, the world religions program that the youth will be exploring every 4th Sunday. For more information, please contact Jessica at dmre@uusm.org. And then join in our all-congregational common read, which explores many facets of our congregational life and how we can collectively grow into a beloved community that fully embodies our UU values. The book is On Repentance and Repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World by Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg, widely available through the public library, bookstores, and online. Judith Martin-Straw and James Whitker will facilitate what is sure to be a valuable and enlightening discussion around apology and forgiveness this coming Saturday, January 11th in Forbes Hall. And Rabbi Shira from Santa Monica Synagogue will be joining as well. And please note that there was an error in previously published start times. The Common Read discussion on Saturday begins at 10:30 a.m. Please RSVP to Adol Ari or contact Judith Martin-Straw or James Whitker for more info. And I think the Green Living Committee will be starting a new series, a workshop series. Do your New Year's resolutions include being more intentional about green living? Consider attending a new workshop series on the first Sunday each month, in which we will examine a variety of strategies for living more sustainably. Participants will calculate their own ecological footprint and learn about local resources and new habits to reduce it while feeling more empowered to take climate action. The series kicks off today with an exploration of your carbon footprint at 1 p.m. under the shade structure in the courtyard. Please contact Adult Ari or Allison Kendall for more information. And the winter clothing drive continues through January 26th. Our lunches partner, the Access Center at 5th and Olympic, maintains a closet of donated clothes where their current inventory is low. Our Lunches for Bunches team asks for your help in making that clothes closet a place of abundance. It's been going well so far, so thank you to everyone who's donated already. Thank you for your generous support and participation so far. Clothing donations continue each and every Sunday through the month of January, so please look for the collection bin on each Sunday service, before and after service. And as always, there's so much more going on than I can share in our limited time here, including upcoming special workshops around intentional living and successfully achieving your New Year's resolutions, in addition to ongoing recurring workshops and meetings. So please review the order of service, your weekly email, and our website, UUSM.org, for more. And it is almost that time to greet your neighbor. Before we do so, please remember to listen for Ryan's piano cues to return to worship, and then we will follow our time to greet your neighbor with music for the morning. So we'll take a few minutes now to say hello and greet those around you who are both familiar and new.
winter comes, can spring be far behind? Beneath the deepest snows, the secret of a rose is merely that it knows you must believe in spring. Just as a free is sure, its leaves will reappear. It knows its emptiness is just a time of year. The frozen mountain dreams of April's melting streams, how crystal clear it seems you must believe in spring. You must believe in love and trust it's on its way. Just as the sleeping rose awaits the kiss of May, so in a world of snow, of things that come and go, where what you think you know you can't be certain of, you must believe in spring and love. So in a world of snow, of things that come and go, where what you think you know you can't be certain of, you must believe in spring and love.
It was beautiful. Thank you. This is a time for us to come together as a community to share our joys, sorrows, and concerns. Joys multiply when we share them together, and sorrows become easier to bear knowing that we need not bear them alone. A joy. Esme and Jaime welcomed a big, healthy new baby on January 2nd at 2:30 a.m. This joy comes after the sorrow of losing their first baby, a baby girl named Rosemary, in June of 2023. Esme had a great birthing experience. She and baby are healthy and cannot wait to come together for service soon. We hold Esme, Jaime, Rosemary, and their new baby in the light of our beloved community this morning. For the unspoken joys and sorrows, for the prayers and thoughts you hold in your heart, know that you are not alone and that we hold each other in celebration, in tenderness, in care together. I invite Michael Esselin now to lead us into a time for mindful meditation, prayer, and silence.
As we move into a time of silent reflection, I invite you to get comfortable in your seats. Take a few nice deep breaths. Maybe close your eyes or dim them if you feel so comfortable. Inhale and exhale. As we breathe and release, before we sit in silence, I share with you a prayer by Reverend Micah Busi. Our prayers, which are not in reach, hallowed be your absence. Our humility come, our avoidance be done. on earth, and that's all we can control right now. Give us this day more connections to creativity, and forgive us our inaction as we give ourselves over to the work once again. And lead us not into desperation, but deliver us to imagination. For we are the prayers if we allow ourselves to be prayed. Amen. Let's move into a time of silence. As a reading this morning, I'd like to offer this from Andrea Gibson. Friend, you are who taught me that a difficult life is not less worth living than a gentle one. Joy is just easier to carry than sorrow. And you could lift a city from how long you have spent holding what's been nearly impossible to hold. But this world needs those who know how to do that. Those who can't find a tunnel, those who can find a tunnel with no light at the end of it and hold it up like a telescope to show that the darkness contains many truths that can bring the light to its knees. Grief, astronomer, adjust the lens. Look close. Tell the world what you see. It's a real joy for me to be here today. Thank you for the nice welcome. I imagine that some of you are old enough to remember suitcases without wheels on them. You'd have to haul around this impossibly heavy luggage through an airport, a train station. You get to a hotel, you got to find a bellman because, hey, I need a hand here. This is heavy. Why did it take a millennium or so to figure out that if you put a few casters on that Samsonite, it'd be a little easier to manage? Just as heavy, but easier to manage. What about baggage like our grief, our sorrow, our fear, our despair? Do you suppose there's wheels for that particular suitcase? Still just as heavy, but maybe easier to manage. At least until the time comes, if it ever does, to leave that suitcase behind, empty it out, and put it away. My husband, Scott, has been living with Parkinson's disease for over 8 years. It has not been easy, and it's guaranteed to get worse. A dear friend recently asked, Michael, what do you do to dispel the sadness? That's the thing. The sadness doesn't get dispelled, ever. It gets held. You learn how to carry it, how to move with it, how to walk with it. You find wheels for it. So what are those metaphorical wheels? What do they look like? I used this analogy not long ago as a springboard for conversation in one of the spiritual reflection groups that I lead for folks living with cancer. What are your particular wheels to help you navigate, to endure the unendurable? And folks had very concrete, practical solutions. I play with my grandson. I work in the garden. I write poetry. I meditate. I snuggle with my dog. I find a friend who will listen to me without giving me a pep talk or any advice. Not always so easy to find. One woman really latched on to that image of the suitcase. And she said, Michael, I think first I'd have to open the suitcase and look at what was inside and decide what was really mine and what had been given to me. What did I inherit? What was assumed of me? So maybe we need to lighten the load before we roll that suitcase around an airport or try to lift it up into the overhead compartment. Of course, all wheels are not of the same quality. Some suitcases are so cheap, you use them once and the thing's a goner. One of those defective metaphorical wheels I find for those living with cancer is certainty. Taking comfort in the idea that I know something. I know why I got this cancer. I know I'm going to beat it. I know what my lesson is here. Adele was one such person. She was in her mid-30s. She was cured of Hodgkin's lymphoma, given the all clear, go live your life, be well. She didn't have to wrestle with all those questions that confound everybody else, like, why did this happen to me, or what's my lesson here, if there even is one. She knew why, and what's more, it was within her control. Michael, I know I got cancer because my life was too stressful. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was working too hard, pressures of being a single mom. But the comfort of that certainty cuts both ways, because now her life is just as stressful as it was before, maybe more so. And now she's certain, convinced that the cancer will come back. What if it was a faulty premise? What if the cancer just is? Is it possible to find wheels to roll us into a new relationship with uncertainty, to come to a kind of peace with it? These are overwhelming times, to be sure, in so many dimensions, on a global scale, on a national scale, and certainly within the parameters of our individual lives. For myself, simply digesting, absorbing the results of the presidential election has been so devastating, confounding, as I know it has for so many, and it keeps going, it keeps unfolding in all these ramifications. It reminds me of decades ago having my car broken into and a lot of crap stolen out of it. And weeks after filling out a police report with everything that was taken and an insurance claim, I realized, shit, my favorite jacket was in the car. And then there's a whole new layer of loss that needs to be absorbed. And it keeps coming. And what's to be done about any of it? What can we do about Ukraine or Gaza, the Middle East, global warming, homelessness, access to health care, LGBTQ rights, reproductive rights? No certainty to be found anywhere. Are there enough wheels for all of that baggage? For myself, I have found snippets of relief and renewal in turning my focus on the very small, sometimes even the teeniest gesture of kindness, or allowing myself a little exhale of joy to witness a full moon rising over horizon. Maybe that's the nature of my particular wheels. Maybe that's all it was ever really about. But the older I get, I have come to believe that even the big things change still by only one conversation at a time. 2:30 in the morning, November 6th, I woke up, I rolled over, I looked at my phone, and I saw the headline that he won. The ground fell out from under my feet. I was in free fall. I couldn't imagine it. Of course, there was no getting back to sleep. I tossed and turned, and then I remembered, Christ, I've got a speaking engagement this morning at 9 o'clock at the Museum of Tolerance, talking to a bunch of K through 12 educators about homophobia. What was I thinking? I rolled around in bed until it was time to get up and get showered and dressed and drive over to the museum, bleary-eyed, thinking, how on earth am I going to enter this conversation today? Why should anybody care about this on a morning such as this? Got to the museum, went up to the conference center, took a deep breath, and dove in. Good morning. This is certainly a potent morning, isn't it? I could hear my voice cracking, and tears were right there under the surface. I'm reminded of another potent morning when I was likewise here at the museum. It was September 11th, 2001, a couple hours after the Twin Towers came down. I was speaking to an audience of educators from Northern California who were now stranded because airspace was closed indefinitely. It was a surreal morning. But the thing is, we were all in the same reality that morning. This morning, in some ways, also surreal, but the thing is, we are in different realities. Some of us are devastated, and some of us are celebrating. So I suppose that's my job today, in a way, whether I like it or not, whether I even want to or not, or whether I think I can or not, is to find a way to bridge those realities. So that's the context, that's the larger umbrella under which I invite you into conversation to explore how it is as a culture that we're still so committed to marginalizing those who we perceive as different from ourselves. And we're going to narrow the focus on the experience of queer folks. Somehow I got through the engagement. There were some tears and hugs afterward. I left the conference centers, making my way through the lobby, and a man approached me with a very thick accent. "Michael, excuse me, could I have a word?" "Of course," I said. I didn't recognize him from the engagement that morning. He told me that he too was a teacher, and he had seen me at the museum a year before. And he wanted to tell me that his daughter had recently come out to him and his wife. And it had not gone well at all. And it was still very treacherous, especially for my wife. It's just not okay in our culture, in our religion. He started to cry. And he confessed to me, he said, "I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but I actually had the thought it would be better if she were dead." But I remembered what you said, and you gave me a way to think about this and to remember that I love my daughter, and that's all that matters. I'm crying, he's crying. I asked if I could give him a hug. As I held him, for the first time since 2:30 in the morning, I felt the ground under my feet again. Okay, this is it. This is what it's about. One conversation at a time, making a connection, holding the space for love. Maybe those are my particular wheels, those kinds of connections. A few years ago, I had an intake to do with a new patient. We had an intake scheduled for Zoom. This was Francine, who was in her mid-50s and had a very aggressive and lethal head and neck cancer with a very poor prognosis. Often when I'm doing an intake, I will ask a very open-ended question, generic, like, just tell me what's going on. And how a patient chooses to answer that question, where they enter the conversation, reveals so much about where they are and what's on their heart right now. But I also know when somebody starts with, well, let's see, in 1962, I know I'm in for a long sit. Sometimes people really need to tell their story one more time. They need to hear it one more time. They need to digest it one more time. They need to translate it from the vantage point of where they are now. And I will seldom interrupt them. Francine was one such person. She was a little late signing on to the session, and she apologized profusely. "I'm so sorry I'm late. I was out driving with my daughter. I lost track of time. We were looking for jacaranda trees in bloom." And then she launched into her story, barely coming up for air. When I could sense that she was winding down a little bit, she concluded with, "So you see, Michael, my life has been one disappointment after another, and I never really lived up to my potential. I don't have much time left, and I want to find meaning in whatever time's left. How do I do that?" Well, I've got about 5 minutes left of this session. Francine, I don't mean to sound flip or glib, but I think the answer might be in your opening sentence. I was out with my daughter looking for jacaranda trees in bloom. It couldn't be smaller. It couldn't be less consequential. And yet she took the time, made the effort, had the intention to go get a little bit of joy somewhere, get a glimpse of an ephemeral kind of beauty and share it with her daughter. All the more meaningful, all the more beautiful because she's sharing it and because those blossoms don't last long, just like life. A few years ago, I was walking beside Nina, who was taking care of her husband with a brain tumor, glioblastoma. Over those couple years, we had many such conversations about how can we turn our attention onto the very small to find some kind of sustenance to get us through to the next step. She told me once that at the previous infusion appointment in the clinic, and as is often the case, there are many folks with the same diagnosis there on the same day because that's the day that that specialist is in clinic. So there were other brain tumor patients there. She's sitting there in the recliner with her husband, and in walks another patient with his wife. They appeared to be pretty well healed, beautifully dressed, gorgeous sweater, nice shoes. The nurse gets them situated in the recliner just opposite Nina and her husband. In a minute or so, the patient says he needs to use the toilet, and his wife gets him up to go to the bathroom. And when he comes back, it's clear he's pissed himself. The front of his pants is soaked in urine. The indignity of that. And we're here now, so this is where we are. This is how it ended. And he has to sit there for a couple hours in urine-soaked pants, knowing he smells. She said, I looked at them and my heart just broke for both of them. And then the man looked out the window with this childlike glee and said, look, hummingbird. It doesn't get any smaller. Jacaranda trees, hummingbirds. Maybe that's where we can find a little oxygen to get us through the next step while we roll all that baggage behind us. 20-some years ago, when I began as an intern chaplain, one of my colleagues in my cohort had studied under a kind of fringy rabbi, I guess, who posited the notion that our whole life's purpose might be fulfilled in one 5-minute conversation with a stranger. I wanted to dismiss the idea immediately as categorically, well, that can't be. My life's too important. That's too demoralizing. It can't just be about that. But the idea stuck with me for 20 years, and I wonder if it's true. A couple years back, Audrey, a colleague at the museum, was going to fly to the Midwest to a 30th high school reunion. Oh, Audrey, I love reunions. I can't wait to hear about it. Have a great time. She gets back. I say, so how was it? She says, oh, Michael, it's so great. I was so glad I went. But the craziest thing happened. This woman came up to me and said, Audrey, I'm so glad you're here. You're the whole reason I came to the reunion. I wanted to thank you. What you said to me when I was in 8th grade, it changed my life. Audrey doesn't have any recollection of this person, let alone what she told her in 8th grade. One conversation at a time. 40 years ago last summer, I had an experience that was at once so huge and so small at the same time. I decided to take the summer off from my fledgling interior design business and resurrect my previous career as a professional dancer. Coming out of retirement, I auditioned to be a dancer in the opening ceremonies of the 1984 Olympics, and I got in. What a summer that was. And you knew going in, this is so not about you. Nobody's going to see you, nobody's going to notice you. But you somehow are compelled to do your best. You want to work so hard. You want it to be so perfect. You're part of this larger effort to welcome the world to Los Angeles. Well, after weeks of rehearsing on the football field at El Segundo High School, the Olympic Dance Corps moved downtown to the Coliseum as the big day approached. We were also going to rehearse the transportation plan for the big day. We were all to drive out to Santa Anita Racetrack, park our cars there, and from there a flotilla of LAUSD school buses would shuttle us downtown, and when we were done with our bit, they'd scoop us up and take us back to Santa Anita. Well, this particular rehearsal, I think, was the day before the dress rehearsal, which would have an invited audience. We could each invite, I think, a handful of friends. Very exciting. But that day, there was so much strife, so much infighting and tension between the drill team director and the marching band director and the choreographer, well-known Broadway and TV choreographer Ron Field. He had 8 assistant choreographers. There was all this infighting to get field time to work on one section or another. We even had to cut 2 numbers that we had worked weeks to perfect. There was a West Side Story medley. There was a Singin' in the Rain number. All had to be cut because there just wasn't time to put it on the field. Well, it was maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was cooked, exhausted. They said, enough, time to go home. The thing is, the buses already had gone home. We were stranded at the Coliseum at 2 o'clock in the morning. This is long before cell phones or Uber, God knows. And then little eruptions, little flare-ups, little meltdowns. This is outrageous. I'm a professional. I can't believe I'm being treated like this. Who's in charge here? All very valid feelings, of course. And the louder folks got, the quieter I got, and I just observed and thought, all that carrying on isn't going to get the buses back here any sooner. And then it occurred to me, this is so big, nobody knows how to do it. There are no experts to call. Just like life, just like my life, just like your life. Even though I have people in my life, as I imagine you do too, who think they know how to do my life better than I do. No one does, not even me. It hasn't been lived yet. That dress rehearsal, in many ways, was more thrilling than the big day itself. The audience was out of their minds with excitement to be the first to see what the world was going to see tomorrow on television. The finale of the entertainment section before the entrance of the athletes. The whole cast assembled on the field, and we were outlined by the marching band who had created a map of the United States on the field. And I know this is hokey as hell, but we were all to sing while the band played America the Beautiful. A song written by a lesbian, I just think you should know. Catherine Lee Bates, in a Boston marriage with a woman, 2 school teachers, I think in the 1890s, had a summer job teaching in Colorado, takes a train across country. So inspired, she puts pen to paper and writes, "Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies." Has a different meaning now, doesn't it? Well, when we got to the part of the song where we're to sing, America, America, we were to gesture with our right arm in a big sweeping gesture, taking in the whole Coliseum, doing a 360-degree turn. The audience was out of their seats, screaming, wild. It was so exciting. I couldn't breathe, let alone sing. It was an exquisite moment, a moment of Holy Communion. And I was invisible. An experience so huge and so small. It remains one of the peak moments of my life. Surrendering to a larger, unknowable reality. It's something we all have to do, like it or not, time and again, as we cross one threshold after another, from childhood to adulthood to parenthood to careers to retirement to being a caregiver to being the patient, until we have to face that ultimate reality. Can we be a little tender with ourselves as we figure it out, with a little more curiosity than fear, and leave room for the possibility of a little magic a little miracle here and there, just like there was in the lobby at the Museum of Tolerance, just like there was on the field at the Coliseum in 1984? Can we let go of our need for certainty and release our urge to maybe compare our suitcase to somebody else's? That's my particular specialty. They must be doing it right. I know I've been doing it wrong. Nobody knows how to do it. We'll all be boarding the same plane sooner or later. Can we take a deep breath and just relax about that? And remember, when putting your suitcase into the overhead compartment, wheels first. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Your words and your stories always are such a gift. You are such a gift. Thank you. Your offering today goes to support the work of multiple groups in the church, including Lunches for Bunches and our Hunger Task Force, which packs lunches every week for our unhoused neighbors and who continue with the winter clothing drive through this month. This is just one of the many church efforts that your donations support. In addition, half of our Sunday offering this month goes to Westside Food Bank. We know them, we love them. Founded in 1981, the Westside Food Bank provides nutritious food for 72,000 households, which equates to 153,000 people in need, with the help of over 60 member agencies throughout our service area. They collaborate with a host of community coalitions and multi-sector partners to strengthen the food assistance network on a large scale. Their mission is to end hunger in our communities by providing access to free, nutritious food through food acquisition and distribution, and by engaging the community and advocating for a strong food assistance network. UU Santa Monica's relationship with Westside Food Bank goes back more than 4 decades. We collect non-perishable food each Sunday, and this month we are again gathering money to help support this organization's important work. We invite you to contribute in whatever way feels right for you. Ways to give are displayed on the slide behind me. All ways of receiving support are gratefully accepted. If you're new or visiting, or you simply prefer a more traditional method, cash or checks can be placed in the offertory bags that will be passed around shortly. Thank you for all that you give, monetarily and through your time and care at church and beyond. The ushers are invited to come forward, and your offering will now be gratefully received.
Where has the time all gone to? Haven't done half the things we want to. Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time. This day was just a token. Too many words are still unspoken. Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time. Just when the fun is starting, comes the time for parting. But let's be glad for what we have and what to be done, but time is racing. Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time.
Body or spirit. And we'll sing our closing hymn, number 1021 in the Teal Hymnal, Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on. For I won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if you have things you need to borrow. For no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Just call on your brother when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. For I won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me. Call me. Call me. Call me.
If you feel so comfortable to take the hand of the one next to you or not, and it's colds and flu season, so wash your hands before you touch your face. But let's just breathe and feel what a joy it is to be together. A few nice deep breaths. And let's envision that telescope that Andrea Gibson describes and look through it. Adjust the lens and be reminded that the darkness contains many truths that can bring the light to its knees. May we rest in that truth and know we can move into and through the darkness. We can carry it all because we have wheels on our suitcase and we are not alone. So be it.